thanks for coming. We hold these lunch and learns once a month, and they range in topics from how to identify root cause of problems to how to streamline business processes. And then this time of year, we focus on things like strategy, because everybody, or a lot of companies, are working on their 2015 strategic plans. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish today. Is we're going to spend about an hour going over how do really successful companies create a strategy and then execute it in a way that is making them more successful than their competition. So this applies not only to your business, but let's say you're not a business owner in the room, you just work in a department and you're in charge of making sure that department's successful. Well, the same theory and principles and philosophies apply. How do I differentiate myself? What is it that I need to accomplish? How is that going to make my business successful? And what do I need to do to execute and make sure those, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a department head, or whether you're just an employee within a group in the company, either way, the same principles and philosophies can be applied. So real quick intro on me. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. I have an MBA, a project management professional degree, and most recently Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. So I've been spending the last 12 some years working with companies to help them streamline their business processes and execute, which is what we're talking about today. And work with a lot of large organizations and small organizations in virtually every industry. So what are we trying to learn today? There's a huge gap, and by the way, this is interactive class. I'm going to be asking questions and asking you to write some things down. So on the back of your paper there, you got some blank space. If you have a pen, that's great. If you don't, I don't know, prick your finger maybe. I'm not sure what you're going to do. But so there's a gap that most companies experience between what's our strategy and how do we execute it, right? And closing that gap is really the difference between able to do and those that aren't successful. So what can you control when it comes to that strategy execution gap? Your company's got a mission and a vision statement, right? Is anybody here going to change that? Probably not. So it's a waste of time. Don't worry about what your mission and your vision are. What can you control? I hear some chuckling in the back. What? The mission and vision are the most important things in the company? Yeah, they're important, but somebody wrote them a long time ago and you're not going to change them. And so does it matter? It does matter, but it depends on the context you're looking at it in. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. So what can we control? It's that execution piece, right? The strategy for your company, at least at a very high level, has already been established. So how well do we execute that? That's what we have to figure out. Question I always get, well, can't we execute the wrong thing really well and still fail? Can't I have a great strategy to build CD players? Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? I can be the best CD manufacturer in the world and it's not going to work for me. So we do have to spend a little bit of time on the front end figuring out, is our strategy going to be successful before we go invest a lot more time into our execution strategy, okay? So I'm going to make a proposal that may sound a little strange to you, but how well we execute as a company depends on what we value, okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, what are some values that you guys have? Can anybody think of something that you truly value? I'm going to give you some examples here, and then I'll back up. Here's Benjamin Franklin's list of values. Pulled this off the Franklin Covey website, by the way. So avoid trifling conversation. Lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Think innocently and justly. So if I value these things, so in Benjamin Franklin's time, being industrious was what he valued. It was also something that the market, the people valued a lot at that time, and there was an enormous number of inventions that came out of that really fit the market. But it was based on these fundamental values that he held. And there's this beautiful intersection that happens where if the things that we value line up with what our market values, what the customer values, then all of a sudden we've got a recipe for success. For example, Apple, right? Got my iPhone. Why do you have your iPhone? What is it that you value that made you choose to buy an iPhone? All of you have iPhones. I got some Samsung folks over here. The battle rages, Who's better? Who's going to win? Why do you choose an iPhone? Those of you that have them. Okay. It's popular. It's easy. This is it. This is interesting, right? There's a little bit of an ego thing with owning an iPhone, is there not? It's a status symbol, right? I can tell you it's a status symbol because I work with a lot of CEOs, and actually a good friend of mine is a CEO for Share, and he founded the company, and he goes around and you can tell what he values and that it's a status symbol because he doesn't have a case on his iPhone. Right, and so the fact that there's no case on the iPhone tells me this, that he can afford that when he drops it once a month to pay the $200 to replace the screen on the iPhone. That's no problem, right? So there's a status symbol involved, but he values the way it makes him feel, the way it presents him in a room surrounded by other executives, right? So if that's what the customer values and that's what your company values or you personally value, and there's an intersection there, that's where the magic happens. That's how you know you're going to be successful. So, first worksheet, and when I work with companies and do these trainings, we do a lot of hands-on activities. And so I'm going to blast you guys with these really fast, have you write something down, then we're going to move on. But really quickly, what is something that you truly value? And this is on a personal level or on a company level. So on a personal level, this is an example for me. I value time with my family. I turned down a $200,000 job last year because they wanted me to move to San Antonio, Texas for 6 months. I said, it's not going to happen. So I lost a lot of money. There was a mismatch between what I valued and what the customer valued. And because of that mismatch, nothing happened, right? If I'm Apple, sleek design. Steve Jobs was famous for this, right? It has to be no screws, no seams, got to be beautiful. And it turns out that the market wanted the same thing, right? People wanted to carry a phone with no screws, no seams that just looked like a piece of art. So because there was that beautiful intersection, they had a huge market and they're very successful. So either on a personal level or on a company level, I want you to write down something that you value. And then whether or not you think that there's an intersection with your market. So if you're doing this on a personal level, who's your customer? Wife, husband, kids, neighbors. If you're doing this on a business level, who's your customer? And do they have a matching value? I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I'm going to ask somebody to share what they've got with me. For those of you that are on the webinar, if you can go ahead and just put yourself on mute, and then at the end of the call we can take, or at the end of the webinar we'll take some questions. All right. What popped into your mind, those of you that are here in the classroom? What's a personal value that you have? You'll share? Thanks. Efficiency. Awesome. How does that translate then into a customer value? What is the customer value? Yeah, getting it to them faster, right? Or at a lower cost. So because most customers want things quickly and at a low cost, and you value personally efficiency, there's probably a good intersection between those two things, which means you've probably got a portion of your business that's very successful because those two things align, okay? So a lot of what we're going to talk about when we talk about strategic planning is alignment. You got to make sure there's alignment between various things. And right now, the alignment we care about is our values versus what the market values, okay? So we're going to go on this journey of strategic planning, and the three big questions that you want to answer are, what or who do we want to love us, okay? What value then do we bring to those people that we want to love us, right? And then how do we do it better than anybody else? If you can answer those three questions and clearly articulate them, you've probably got a good strategy. And then we just have to close that gap into executing it, okay? So I'm going to give you a 5-step system that makes it easy to accomplish this, at least to follow through the steps and make sure you're doing it correctly. And by the way, guys, if you want, I'll share this presentation with you after. So if you put your name and email on the little slip, then Roger Rice will send out the presentation. You can review it later. So you don't have to feel like you have to write down everything. But 5 steps. If you can remember MVDEO or my video for success, and it stands for, first of all, your market, right? Who are you trying to attract? Who's that customer you want to love? What's the value you bring? How do you differentiate yourself from all the other people that are trying to compete for that market? Okay. Then how do we execute and how do we adjust? Some companies have made a fortune just out of being really good at this last one, right? They adjust faster and better than anybody else. Could be a strategy all by itself. So we're going to go through each of these 5 steps. We're going to do it in half an hour. Ha! Should be fun. Market, number 1. How many of you have been asked to do a market analysis? Have any of you ever done a market analysis? Everybody's like, we're in the middle of doing that right now. Okay, so what do you typically do in a market analysis? What sorts of activities are we doing? We're doing surveys, trying to get some customer data on, what do you want, what do you need, what else do we do? You get some stats maybe. Five forces analysis, perfect, or a SWOT or a TOWS analysis, awesome. So I like the statistics. So you're probably getting data, paying for some, market survey results and things like that that help you make decisions. So those are all good things. I want you to frame all those activities into the context of this, which is who do we want to date, right? So owning a business, delivering products and services is basically a relationship, right? You're doing something that adds value to another group of people, and because there's a mutual benefit there, you've got a relationship, right? So this is just like dating, okay? Who do we want to date? If we want to date Taylor Swift and people like Taylor Swift, awesome. That's a great goal. What do we need to know? Well, we probably better know where the Taylor Swifts hang out and what the Taylor Swifts like to do and what sorts of things they're looking for in a guy and what sorts of things they absolutely have to have in a relationship, right? That's the sort of information you need to know. So from a market standpoint, you're asking, okay, what's the market really look like? And then what do they have to have, the people in that market? These are the must-have items if you're doing like a Cano analysis, which we'll talk about in a sec. And then you say, what do they tell us they want to have? Customer survey, right? We do a survey. They say, we want this, this, and this. And then you can say, all right, but what does their money say? And here's why that's important. Well, I'll get back to that. So there's your market need questions. Your market position is then, all right, where do I fit in that market? If I want to date Taylor Swift, am I a really buff, handsome guy, or am I kind of more of a couch potato, right? I need to know where I fit in the market, because if I don't fit in the same space that my customers are looking for, there's not going to be good alignment there. I either need to change or I need to decide I'm going to date different girls, okay? And where do we compete? X and Y axis. We're going to talk about the X and Y axis in a sec. And then market dynamics. So you also need to know, are you playing in a market that's rising? Is it declining? Is there technology disruption going on? So that's very important information because this helps you adjust ahead of the market. So this isn't comprehensive, but these are good leading questions on 3 points: the market need, market position, and market dynamic. So let's talk about the Xbox. Let's say you did a survey of your customer and they said, we want the most powerful gaming system in the world, and it's got to have huge, enormous amounts of memory and the world's fastest processor so we can have really real human beings on our video games that look just like the real thing. That's what your customers told you they want. And you built it and you sold 39 million of them. And you're thinking, awesome, I'm dating Taylor Swift now. This is going great. Until you realize that your competition found a different group of people to date. And they built a really cheap thing that's half the price of yours, and they sold twice as much. So what happened? We listened to the customer. They told us what they wanted. We built what they wanted. They said they wanted the world's most awesome, amazing gaming machine, and then somebody else went out and made more money than us. What happened to our strategy? Yeah, they found a market that had been there, but we didn't even recognize it. We didn't even know that Taylor Swift also had, Miley Cyrus over there. We should have been dating her. What's going on? Okay? One of the biggest problems you face when you're gathering your market data is that buyers are liars, right? They might tell you that they want the greatest and best and everything, but wow, it turns out that the Wii's really fun. It doesn't have near the memory that we thought we needed. So, who tells the truth? How do you know which market data to listen to? Well, Follow the money, right? If the money's headed that direction, if you can see the sales are going that direction, that's usually a good indicator of where to go. Now, this doesn't pertain if you're trying to break into a new market or create a new market. Those are different scenarios. But for 90% of what we're doing with strategy, we're trying to look for existing opportunities where there's a proven market or a developing market that we can get into, okay? Is it a bigger screen? Is it a bigger community? I don't know. Customer may say, I want a bigger screen, but in reality, the money's in having a better store. Okay. All right. So in market analysis, data, you got to start by gathering some data. One of the first places you can go is your own sales data. So if you have products and services that you've sold in the past, go look at that data and find out what trends. You can do some data mining. What's happening in those? Are they going up and down? Are there certain markets? Can I slice and dice the data by different market sectors, by different customers and things, and find something interesting in my own data that tells me what area I should focus on or invest more money into. Okay? Test your premise. Always try and find out if your hypothesis is true. I think that this market is going to take off. You can test that. Okay? And you have to avoid the pet trap, which is, well, I really, really want to make this. If the market doesn't support what you want to do, and this is, it happens all the time. You get an executive team, they're really excited about, we want to make this one thing, we want to do this one thing. But if the market doesn't substantiate that very quickly, that's in the startup world what they call pivoting, right? You better find something else that's going to work. If you get hung up on that one thing, you could get stuck there for a long time. So ask your customers and then test them. See if they're willing to actually pay for what you're proposing. Customer importance scales. We don't have time today to go through this, but this is something you can do. You talk to your customers, you find out what are the benefits that they're looking for, put them on a chart, and then decide, okay, where do we fit within that? Is that something we currently deliver? Is that something we can do differently? How many of you used a candle model before? Not a lot of hands jumping up in the air from what I can see. Candle model is awesome. If you've never used a candle model, today's the day. You're going to leave this training, you're going to go back to your desk, you're going to cancel all your meetings, and you're going to do a candle model today. Because what a candle model does is it tells you this. It says, here's all the things, here's a list of all the stuff my customer told me that they wanted, okay? Well, if you ask your customer, well, what if you didn't have that feature? What if you didn't do that? And they say, oh, well, that's really no big deal. Okay, that's a delighter. That's something that you can deliver that if you give it to them, they'll be really excited about it, but if you take it away, they don't really care. It's like, no big deal. Then you've got your basic needs, which is, here's all the things that your customer absolutely has to have. If you don't have it, they're going to be really upset. Like, if I don't have a steering wheel in the car you just sold me, I'm going to be pretty upset, or brakes. But if you give me brakes and a steering wheel, it's not really a buying decision for me. It's not going to differentiate you. That's just a basic need that I have to buy the car. Now, if you give me a heated steering wheel and it's got speakers inside it that sound really fantastic, oh, that might be really cool. That's a delighter, okay? So you can Google candle model online, find out a little bit more on how to do it, but it's a great tool to take that list of benefits that you think you provide to your customer and then break them down into things that you really need to do versus things that are really going to win over the customer. Okay, so here's the customer driver sheet. Basic needs, delighters, make a list. I'm not going to have you do it right now because we just don't have time for that. Next question. So we've got this idea of who our customer is and what the market looks like, and that's all peachy keen, but now we got to look at what? Who's coming in from the side, right? Who wants to destroy us? Okay? So there's competitors, obviously, but there's a lot more than that. There's technology, disruptive technology, market trends, internal issues that go along with execution. There's a lot of things working against us to have a successful business or even just to have our own little department be successful, right? You have to write down what is working against you in order to fight it. If you don't pay as much attention to the forces working against you as you do as to the market you're trying to capture, you can get destroyed even if you have a great strategy, okay? There's a saying out there by, I can't remember his name right now, but in some garage somewhere, there's an entrepreneur forging a bullet with your company's name on it. So be prepared, right? So questions you can ask: who's succeeding in the market? What are their differentiators? Are we going to fight them, or are we going to go into flight mode? Here's a worksheet that you can use to do that. You basically list out your competitors or your, disruptive technologies, whatever those things are. And you say, okay, Are those being successful on a scale of 1 to 5? If they're not being successful, do we care about them? No, we just ignore them. Okay, they're not truly a threat. But if they are a threat, then they have to say, okay, what are they doing that differentiates them, that's making them a threat? And are we going to fight in that same space, or are we going to go move into a different arena and fight on a different arena? Okay, this is what we call the breakthrough access, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, and then you get market trend data and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's the first section, understanding your market. Questions on that? Yeah, blowing through this stuff really, really fast. My hope is that you guys will just grab like 1 or 2 things when you walk out of here. You'll be like, oh, this is great. This is the one thing that I needed today. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do that. I'm going to pay attention to that. Okay. So next step. So I'm guessing that there's at least a handful of you in here that really aren't the business owner, but you own your department or your area or even just you and your career, right? This section is awesome for anyone in any position because this section is about how do I personally bring value, okay? Because that's really the only way you make money, right, is if you add value somewhere. If you don't, that's the definition of utility. Back to Benjamin Franklin. He said if you don't build something that has utility, meaning people actually pay money for it, you've done nothing of value. So value proposition, or the big VP. This is something that you should have for your business and for yourself personally, okay? Google, I Googled it, I looked on Wikipedia, and all their definitions are, they're so-so. Basically, they're saying this. What does your customer believe that you do for them? Think about your value proposition to your boss. I mean, everybody's got a boss. Even the CEO of the company has a boss. Board of directors, whatever. So what does your customer, your boss in this case, believe that you do for them? That's your strategy right there. That's your value proposition. And then the question is, can you execute it? Because if you execute it, they'll continue to believe that. If you can't execute it, they'll stop believing. And when people stop believing, that's where you get a major disconnect to your company fails. Okay? Anyone want to share something that popped into their mind? What's the value that your customer believes that you provide? Okay, that was Sasha from the Lehigh Chamber, and their whole goal is helping businesses in Lehigh and the surrounding area succeed. Okay, awesome. As a business owner, do I believe that? Absolutely. You know why I believe that? Because not only do they say they're going to do it, but they execute on it. So I talked to Sasha, and she said, hey, you're putting on a lunch and learn. That's awesome. How long have you been doing it? I said, I've been doing it for about a year. She said, great. I'd love to send it out to everybody on the chamber email list. And then she went and did it. Holy cow. Does that mean that she cares about me as one of her customers? Absolutely. So I now believe in the chamber because they execute on what they said that the value was they brought to me. Okay? So first try a VP. So I own a software company called KPI Fire that helps companies manage their strategy. And this is what my first try at a VP is. Again, VP, value proposition. We add value when we save our customers time tracking their projects. Okay, a good first try. Southwest. Everybody know Southwest Airlines? Anybody here fly Southwest? I do a lot of travel, so I talk about Southwest a lot. But we add value when we make it easy for business travelers to rebook their flights. Okay, Starbucks. We add value when we provide patrons a relaxing atmosphere where they can escape for a few minutes. So that's a great first try, but what does that not do? It doesn't frame the value we bring in terms of the customer. So if we put the customer mirror up and we say, okay, who is the customer? Can we put a name on them? Right? What's their title? What's the position they hold? Who do we really try to make love us, right? If we do that, we can change our statements a little bit to say things like, as the lean champion, that's really who I want to love me in my software company, the Lean Six Sigma champion at a company. I want them to love me, and I want them to love me because they feel less stress because they know it's easy to enter their projects into the system and keep track of them. If I'm Southwest Airlines, I can say, as a traveling salesman, that's who I want to love me, right? I can stay long, I can leave early, depending on how the sales process goes, and it's free to change my flight, so it's no big deal, okay? So to create a value proposition, you need to be able to answer this question. from the customer's point of view. I choose you over the competition because what? So what business are you with? American Crafts. Okay, so I imagine you guys have competitors, such as?
I'm the new one here. So.
Oh, I'll pick on any of you then. She was the only one not averting my gaze, so that's why I picked on her. You always look down. That's the key. Always look down. All right, so who's your competitors? Give me one. You don't know? You guys have a market with no competitors? This is awesome. I want to be in your business. Either there's no market for your product or nobody else has found out about it. You guys buy them all. Fantastic. Wow, I'm getting into your industry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Well, so assuming you had competition, since you're the only company that doesn't, why would somebody choose you over the competition? American Crafts says yes, when everyone else, if there were them, says no.
Right.
Awesome. Okay. So this is a really simple exercise you can do for your company, okay? Why do people choose us over other people? If you don't know, you better go talk to your customers and find out, why did you choose us over them? And then you better go talk to the people that didn't choose you and say, why did you choose the Samsung over the Apple? Well, I can tell you why Samsung's going to kill Apple. It's because their batteries don't die every 4 hours. That's exactly why Samsung is dominating in the market. Okay. Value comes from removing pain. Okay? 90% of the time. When you're not in an innovative 3M invent the new market kind of company, most of the time, there's a pain you're trying to overcome. If you can, the traveling salesman, Southwest says, travel with us if you're a traveling salesman. You can change your flight anytime. Doesn't cost you anything. Sweet, right? You just alleviated some pain, and alleviating pain leads to love. So you can answer this question. As a customer, I love you because I feel this when you do that. Okay? I know this sounds romantic. It is romantic because when your customers feel something about you, they buy, right? So why did I buy the car I bought? A car is a very emotional decision. I guarantee every single one of you bought your car because you feel like it relates to you. It's kind of who you are. I'm a Subaru person, or I'm a Lexus person, right? Or I'm a Ford guy, right? You have to feel something about them, and there's a reason that you feel that way, and you have to know what that connection is about your company, okay? Boy, oh boy, we're not going to get through near the material we want today, but that's okay. We're going to give you enough. Let's talk about love. So how do you get someone to love you? Who do you want to love you? So Burger King in the 2000s was struggling. Their sales were dropping. They're not making as much money as they wanted. And so they hired this great marketing advertising firm called Crispin Porter and Boguski, and I'm probably slaughtering that. And what they said is they asked Burger King executives a really tough question. They said, who do you want to love you? Right? Be very specific. Who do you want to love you? Well, we want everyone to love us. We want everyone to come buy hamburgers. We want everyone to come to Burger King. No, it doesn't work that way. You can't be everything to everyone. You can't have everyone as a customer. Who do you really want to love them? And eventually they boiled down to this. They said, we want the 18 to 34 male demographic. Okay. So you know what they did? They came up with a guy wearing a king outfit and a plastic head, wearing tights, dancing around, acting like an idiot. And the executives, you know what they said when they saw the king in tights guy? What did they say? They're like, this is crazy. They're like, we don't get it. We don't get the king in tights dancing around guy at all. That's weird. And you know what they said to them? Well, that's because you're not in the 18 to 34 male demographic. You're in the 60-year-old over-the-hill male demographic, and you said you don't care about that demographic at all. You're not interested in that, right? So they ran with it, and for about 10 years, they ran those ads, and they completely changed the look and feel. Instead, everybody was going, low carb, low calorie, McDonald's was coming out with all kinds of salads, and Burger King raised the flag and said, no way. We're going to sell the Whopper, and it's got 10 million calories, and we're going to build it your way, however you want. You want 5 patties, we'll give you 5 patties. We'll give you whatever you want. And it worked. For 10 years, they had a really solid run. Now, were they successful? Absolutely, because they're successful what? Having a very focused strategy of knowing who they wanted to love them. Okay? Do you know who your business wants to have love you? And the reason this is important is because if right now you want everyone to love you, you're going to fail because you don't have a targeted focus. Okay? So there is a trade-off decision that you have to make. If you want someone to love you, that means you got to give somebody else up. You really like that cute girl, you like Taylor Swift, you're going to have to give up Miley Cyrus. If you want them both, you're in trouble. Girls don't like that. So what are you willing to leave behind? Here's Southwest Airline example. What do they want to be? 2 things that Southwest is. What are the 2 things that Southwest is to you? When you think of Southwest, they're cheap, they're the low cost, and what's the second thing? Flexible. Okay, that's a great answer. Probably should have added that one up there. What else do you think of when you think of Southwest? I heard it's out there somewhere. They strive to be fun, like the fun airline, right? What's that? Cocktails. Yeah, there are cocktails, actually. But they're the fun airline, right? The people are friendly, they're nice. So what do they have to do? That's their strategy. They want people to love them because they're low cost and they're fun. Okay, so what are they going to do? Execute. To be low cost, what do you have to do? You got to keep your planes in the air, right? If you want fun people, you got to hire fun people. So you got to change your hiring process. You want to keep your costs down, you got to have one type of plane, right? So this is where we start bridging the gap between strategy and execution. Their strategy is low cost and fun. Next question for your company is, okay, what do we have to actually do to be low cost and fun? Because you can't just say, I want it. It can't be a mission vision statement you hang on your wall and it's magically going to happen. That's the biggest problem with companies. They spend, 2 months coming with a mission vision statement, hang it on the wall, and when it's magically going to happen, well, no, it's not. If you want fun people, you better hire fun people. And if your hiring process is, well, how long have you been in the airline industry? Oh, 15 years. Well, that's who we're going to hire. Does Southwest hire people that have been in the industry for 15 years? No, they could care less if you have industry background. They honestly could care less. When they have the hiring process, they want to know, are you a team player? They want to know, do you have fun? Do you enjoy working with people? That's who they are. They could care less if you have airline experience. So they got to change their hiring process. What are they going to give up? So you give up a lot of things when you fly Southwest, right? You got no assigned seat, right? You can't join flights with your Delta Airlines and have connecting flights on Expedia. Can't even find Southwest on Expedia, right? So they made they're losing customers, just like Burger King, losing customers, but they're not the customers they want. They're very, very focused on the customers that they want. They've got a very specific series of things that they do to win them, okay? So this is your next homework assignment, or if you come to the 2-day workshop, we'll be doing this hands-on so that you can leave with your strategic plan in place. What are the things that you want to be, like Southwest, low cost and fun, and what are you willing to give up? Well, we're willing to give up the soccer moms that want a low-carb lunch. That's just not who's going to come to Burger King for lunch. And we're willing to sacrifice the soccer mom because we want the 18 to 34 male demographic. If you haven't sacrificed something, you've never experienced love. And that's what you need to succeed as a business, okay? If you aren't giving up something on your business, saying we're not going to do that, Apple says very clearly, we're not going to be open source. Everybody can develop whatever they want on here without our approval. It's not going to be like Microsoft. We're willing to give up those people that want to do that. And that's a decision they made. If you aren't making those tough decisions, you don't know what your strategy is. Okay? So that takes us to value proposition. So we've analyzed our market. We've created our value proposition. We know who loves us and why they choose us. Next step in the process, differentiate. Okay? What are you going to do to differentiate? I'm going to ease you into this. What makes you so special? Because there's competition out there, except for these gals. There's competition out there, and they're all going after Taylor Swift. and you got to be either, you know, better looking or something to make Taylor Swift choose you, and you actually have to execute on that. So how do we take our value proposition and turn that into a differentiator? Okay. Here's the Starbucks statement. My Starbucks helps me relax when their friendly staff smiles at me, hands me my favorite drink, and then find a comfy couch where I can read my Kindle. Can you pick out the specific things that me as the Starbucks owner has to do? I have to make sure my staff is smiling. I have to make sure that I've got the favorite drinks. They used to have this little 2-ounce chocolate shot you could buy there. They don't sell it anymore. I stopped going to Starbucks because of that. I have to have a comfy couch, and I probably need Wi-Fi in a quiet area, okay? So I listen to what my customer wanted, and then I have to turn that into a list of executables, things that I have to go do to meet those customer requirements. Okay, that's how we're bridging the gap, turning the customer needs into executables for me. This is the value wheel. The value wheel is a tool for aligning your entire organization around your value proposition, okay? So there's a lot of components to this. Organizational structure. If my primary focus as a financial organization is to deliver great customer service, and I've organized my company by function, meaning HR, IT, finance, loans, that organizational structure is not going to lead to great customer service. And if customer service is my value proposition, I'm hosed. Okay? So if I want great customer service, I better have an amazing customer service department, training, hiring process. Everything around customer service has to be built into my organization. Okay? So that's just one example of all the things you have to do on the value wheel to make sure you execute on your value proposition. Are your business processes aligned? Okay? Do you have the right roles and responsibilities? Do you have the right technology? Are you measuring the right things? Every single thing on this wheel has to be functioning and aligned to your value proposition. Otherwise, you may risk doing something wrong. Okay? So back to the Apple scenario. What do they actually do differently than everyone else? So we all know their ease of use, innovative features. What if I told you that their community was their differentiator? And if you want to switch from Apple, you can't, can you? You're stuck for life because you're part of their community and there's no way out. Let's see if you can figure out Toyota. What does Toyota actually do differently than anyone else that differentiates them? They add value. Okay, so I buy it because they have good quality. What else? They last for a long time. Okay, they're affordable. It's sensible. I'm a sensible person if I buy a Toyota. But what really does Toyota do differently? What if I were to suggest it's really their supply chain, right? They have a super efficient supply chain which allows them to produce a high-quality car at the lowest cost, okay? How about Aflac? What do they do to differentiate themselves from everybody else? They give you money back. Nice. How many of you think Aflac's an insurance company? Most of you? You're going to be crazy shocked to find out you're wrong. I was kind of shocked, and then when I found out, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so obvious. They're not an insurance company. I used to think, well, they sell security, they sell peace of mind, that's their differentiator. Wrong go. You know what Aflac is? They're a marketing company. Think about it. How do you know about Aflac? It says it right in their mission statement. The first line of their mission statement doesn't say anything about helping people, providing people great benefits. They don't care about that. Not that they don't care, they do. But the first thing on their mission statement says to combine innovative strategic marketing with products. They don't even list insurance. They just say products. We don't care. We could sell cars. We could sell, bats and balls. It doesn't matter. They're a marketing company. And they're dang good at it, aren't they? Interesting. So what do you sell? Are you a craft company? Do you sell widgets? Or do you sell customer experience? Do you sell peace of mind? Right? What is it that you really deliver that differentiates you from your competition? Amazon is a customer service company. You may think they're a bookstore, they sell products. That's not true. Their whole goal is to be the best customer service company online. So this is what we call the breakthrough axis. The breakthrough axis means this. You've got people playing in your standard field. You've got people competing on price. You got people competing on features. You got people just running out of the back of the room. Good luck, guys. I'm just teasing you. Have a good one. But this is kind of the standard stuff that people are competing on, right? So what are you going to do to break through? What are you going to do that's different than anyone else? Any ideas? Let's say your competition is competing on price. They're doing the Walmart thing and they're trying to just undercut you. Do you want to go down that path, the death spiral of lower costs? That's a lousy way to compete, right? What if they're competing on features, which is like Samsung, right? They're going to outdo Apple and have more and more features. They're going to waterproof their phones, have exchangeable batteries. Do you want to go down that path? Maybe, maybe not. You've got to find a different axis, a different stadium to play in that separates you from your competition. So what could that be? We have better quality, makes us different. Our customer service or ease of use. Maybe we're Aflac and we just want to market differently. Okay. So at this point in the process, you have three things, right? You've understood your market. You have your value proposition. Now you're trying to form, these are the things that we actually have to do to be different than our competition. This is the arena that we're going to play in that separates us. Okay? I'm going to use, you guys familiar with JCW's local hamburger chain, right? So if you look at the typical axes that they're competing with, right? If you look at price, here's the price of a cheeseburger. Here's the menu size, number of menu items, right? If I'm In-N-Out, super low price, super small menu, right? If I'm Five Guys, I'm high price, super small menu. And you got like the big guys over at McDonald's, Burger King, they're big menus, medium price, okay? Where's JCW? It doesn't even show up on the map. It's this little teeny speck right here, right? Here's the problem. JCW's is competing in the large menu, medium price range, which means they're competing with the McDonald's and the Burger Kings out there. So are they going to be successful? Well, that depends. Are they trying to compete on these two axes, or have they found a third breakthrough axis where they compete that the other guys aren't competing? Any guesses on what that might be? Could be quality. You get a much better burger than at McDonald's. Could be what else? What other ideas? If you were JCW's, what's the axis you would want to compete on? I mean, owning a hamburger chain's got to be tough, right? I wouldn't want to be in that business. Ah, yeah. Quality, efficiency, that's your idea. Customization, I'll make it kind of however you want, whatever sauce. Taste more, just taste alone, more like real food. Okay. So, and this is what you have to figure out for a company. None of these are right or wrong, but what did we learn in the market section? In the market phase of this discovery process, we learned that you should, if you have an idea, try it, test it, follow the money. So if we think that people are willing to pay for food that tastes more real and fresh, let's try it, test it, and let's follow the money. See if the money goes there. If the money follows, great. If the money doesn't follow, then the breakthrough axis that we picked isn't the right one. We got to find a different one. Okay. So this is going to be close to the last slide. Value proposition has to be supported by your work process. So I'm a Lean Six Sigma guy. I help companies streamline their business processes. You can be super efficient at something, but if you got the wrong strategy, it doesn't help. So your work processes have to be aligned with your value proposition. If you want to be super efficient like McDonald's, you better design your business processes to work that way. If you want to be great at design like Apple, you better have an amazing design team. You better have business processes designed to work and help you create great, clean, beautiful works of art. Okay? So value proposition exercise is something we'll do in the workshop where you basically decide what are you going to do to be the best in the world at? What do you have to do to make your business sustainable? And then what are you going to stop doing and give up? What are your trade-offs going to be? You got to make those three lists. Right. Execute. Once you get to the execution stage, you don't want to do this. It's not a leap of faith. You want to build the bridge. You have to have a very clear architecture. So how do you do that? There's the GEAR model for operational excellence. Basically says this: you have to align your work with your values. All the work that your employees are doing, all the work that your managers are doing, your directors, your customer, all have to be aligned. You have to be able to visually show a representation of how that alignment works. Okay? Oops, I don't know what I just did there. So a lot of companies will use like a Hoshin matrix or something like that to do your strategic alignment. It basically says, here's our mission and vision, here's our strategic objectives, here's our value proposition. What do we have to do this year to achieve that? And then what are the projects that we have to do within the year to achieve those one-year initiatives? This is the visual alignment that you need to have in your company between what your objectives are and what your annual objectives are and what your projects are that you're working on. Okay, so you can use a tool like a Hoshin matrix, which is just an Excel spreadsheet, an X matrix to do that. KPI Fire is a software that allows you to visually connect your long-term goals with your short-term goals with your projects that you're working on. Okay. The last step is adjust. So you've designed your strategy, you've got your execution plan in place. Now you got to test and adjust. Okay. These are companies that did not adjust, and they suffered the consequences, right? These are companies that are great at adjusting, right? When the market starts to shift, they react, and they do it very well. So 3 things: measure, assess, and adjust. It's a key phase. There's some tools that we have around how to do this effectively, but if you don't have this assess and adjust cycle built into your business, you're at some point going to be caught off guard, because at some point the market's going to shift, your customer demographics going to change, the product style and preference is going to change. Something's going to happen in your business, and if you are constantly assessing and adjusting, it's going to catch you off guard, and your business is going to decline. Someone else is going to take its place. Okay? So that is basically the 5 steps of setting up a great strategic plan and bridging the gap between setting your strategy and executing your strategy. So again, 5 steps: understand your market, decide what your value proposition is, verify that with your customer, then decide what are you going to do to differentiate yourself. So if I'm Southwest Airlines and I want to be low cost, I'm going to have the steward and stewardesses on the plane actually clean the plane. I'm not going to have a cleaning crew come in because that's more expensive. I actually have to do something different than my competitors or just like them. Then I got to execute on that. Once I execute, constantly measure and adjust. Okay? If you guys are interested in creating a really great 2015 strategic plan, please join us. Roger's been great enough to sponsor. We're going to be putting on a 2-day event where we basically go through each of these 5 phases, and we do the worksheets and the tools inside as a company, and you can leave with your 2015 strategic plan on paper and online and make it visible for your entire company. And it's a great way to just kind of get it done quickly and then make sure you have not just a strategy, but you also have a really solid plan for executing. And that's it.
Thank you for attending this month's Lean Lunch and Learn. Join us again next month for another Lean topic.